Hey, Justin, wanted to ask you, how can an employer stand out when they're attracting candidates?
A lot of employers are going to want to jump right into the tactics of attracting candidates. We need to hire a recruiter. We need to do some advertising. We need to do this, that, and the other thing. They're thinking tactics. But the problem is, if you jump into the tactics before you think about your strategy to attract talent, you're probably going to spin your wheels. You're going to waste your ad spend and you're going to waste a lot of people's time. So the way that you want to attract talents, yes, you need those tactics, but first you need to think strategy. Strategy, as James Ellis has put it, is simply the application of your strength versus somebody else's weakness. And so as an employer, you need to figure out what your strengths are. And you also probably should know what your competitors' weaknesses are. So for example, if I have a software engineer and they're working in an environment where they're going to be 80 hours a week, that's the standard. I'm thinking of Twitter. Maybe not every engineer at Twitter signed up for 80-hour work weeks, right? They signed up for something else, and now they're being told 80-hour work weeks. Well, that's now a weakness for Twitter engineers that are like, well, I didn't sign up for that. So other companies can use that, their strength. Well, we're not going to make you work 80 hours. We're going to make you work 32 hours, 40 hours, 45 hours. And plus you have all these other things that are maybe strengths. You leverage that against the weakness of Twitter, and you attract those candidates. So that's a simple example. It's a very obvious example. And there are more nuanced examples, but essentially you want to figure out what your strengths are, leverage those against the weaknesses of other employers. And Matt, sometimes that might be difficult if you've got maybe only a couple different strengths. Again, we're not looking at like outstanding strengths. I think a lot of times when people do this exercise of like, how can we attract talent? They think of like, what is the one thing we can do better than anyone else? And that's a good question to ask. You should ask that question. But ultimately you want to ask, what are some of the things we're doing just a little bit better than anybody else? No employer is going to be completely unique because it's just a matter of time before every other employer starts copying that perk or that benefit. So it's really up to you figuring out what is something we do better. Do we have a better collaborative environment? And if so, what are we doing to encourage a collaborative environment? What's some examples of that? So you really need to figure out what are your themes, what are your strengths as an employer, leverage that against the weaknesses of your competitors, and then use those themes, those strengths, and talk about those. Then you can go use the tactics, go make those videos, create those messages for your recruiters.